Yes, sir, you mentioned about Vidūṣaka and all, but I'm trying to understand what are the origin of Vidūṣaka. It's only through the Vedic Yagi as per the Biski's idea, or is it something more?
No, Kuiper's idea. So, about so actually speaking, now if you look, this Kuiper has dealt only with Natya Shastra. He has compared the description of Vidūṣaka in Natya Shastra with the description of the Jumbaka in the Vedic Ashwamedha ritual.
Yeah.
And that is there, it's very, But if you look historically, people have tried to derive the Vidūṣaka from many different Vedic and non-Vedic sources.
Namaste. I, Prachand Praveer, am talking with Dr. Sunthar Visuvalingam, an independent researcher from Chicago. Dr. Sundar, warm welcome, and we'll continue from where we left earlier in the second session. You talked a lot about, discussed Burks and Freud. You also mentioned about Lévi-Strauss, Claude Lévi-Strauss in the very first session. So how do you associate with his idea of repressed laughter in American Indian mythology?
Yes, thank you. So I'm glad to resume this conversation. So you see, I've read Lévi-Strauss quite a lot, and there is one book of his called The Raw and the Cooked. It's actually part of a 3-volume or 4-volume work, 4 thick volumes on Amerindian mythology, particularly in the Amazonian mythology. Because in the Amazon jungle there are a huge number of tribes.
Okay.
So he has studied them himself personally, and also he studied all the previous people who've done research on it. So in this Raw and the Cooked, basically there is a large section called the repressed laughter. So this is a study of a cycle of myths, a mythical cycle, and these myths are taken from different tribes. Some of these tribes are very far away, but they have a mythical, just like in India, you have goddess myth in so many different parts of India, among people who speak different languages. So they have a mythology with variants, right? So like this, he started noticing that there is a particular kind of myth, a certain motif in the mythology that keeps coming up again and again and again. And so he actually recorded all these myths, gives a summary, and he analyzes this myth to find out what is the logic behind this myth. Because you see, one of the most important things in Lévi-Strauss' work is that before him there was somebody called Lévi-Brul, also a Frenchman, said all of this is primitive thinking. They don't have clear thinking, unlike us Westerners. After Descartes, we have logical clear thinking. People are like primitive thought, it's all confused and diffused. And Lévi-Strauss wants to show the opposite. So he takes the mythology and tries to show that behind this mythology is some very clear-cut thinking. It's almost like logical thinking, but with mythology. So he comes across this myth of what he calls the cycle of the repressed laughter. Now you see, in all of these myths, in all of these cultures, these different tribes, they have so many practices, and like just as we have parampara and heritage and religious practices, social practices, all of these practices, they trace back to a culture hero. There's a kind of a hero who brought all of this, who revealed this to our tribe, and so they remember this culture hero. And so he's like the lawgiver, the person who gave them all the rituals and history. And so in this repressed laughter, cycle of repressed laughter, one of the figures which keeps coming up is an animal called the jaguar. Jaguar is like tiger here. It's the top predator in Amazonian ecology. This is the most powerful creature, very feared by human beings. But yet, all their cultural goods, secret of fire, secret of honey, which are the 2 most important secrets that they have, secret rituals and other rituals, special songs which are like mantras. So all of these things, it's the jaguar which has taught them. But how how does it come from this wild animal whom they fear? This is a wild animal. How does it come to their society? So there is always one typical story. So what happens is there is a hunter in all of these stories. I'm just giving you the kind of the common theme. There is a hunter, warrior from the tribe, whichever tribe it is, all different tribes, sometimes very far apart, no direct contact. So this hunter goes to the forest, to the jungle, and he is looking for birds' eggs, he's collecting birds' eggs. So he climbs to the top of a tree. So when he's up on the tree to collect the eggs, suddenly he sees below there is a jaguar under the tree. And what this jaguar does is, the jaguar sees the shadow of the guy. He doesn't see the guy, but he sees the shadow on the ground, shadow of the guy on the tree. And you start jumping on the shadow. Jaguar starts attacking the shadow. So now here two things happen in the midst. One, this warrior laughs. He laughs. Okay. So if he laughs, the jaguar immediately spots him and kills him.
Okay.
Eats him, kills him and eats him, because there is opposition between jaguar and human beings. Okay? But if this guy represses his laughter, he has an urge to laugh, because one of the most funny and stupid things, just like the Vidūṣaka, one of the most funny and stupid things you can do in the American culture, in American is instead of jumping on the victim, instead of jumping on the prey, you jump on its shadow. So that's the funniest, ridiculous thing you can do. So if the guy represses his laughter, then the jaguar adopts him. The jaguar adopts the guy, takes him to its wherever it lives, to its lab with his thing. There for a few years, it's like teaching him. Teaches him all the secrets.
Secret of fire.
Secret of fire, secret of honey, all kinds of secret rituals. And finally, this hero, after having learned everything from the jaguar, which is like its guru, he comes back to the tribe and he gives all this to his tribe. Mm-hmm. See? So this is the culture hero who brings the thing. So the big question in Lévi-Strauss' mind is why does laughter play such an important? So it's a whole cycle of myths, different tribes, all. Why is laughter given such an important role? Why is this jaguar, he's testing this man, this warrior, but why is he testing him through laughter?
Maybe jaguar said, God, it's not played.
So if he laughs, then he's gone. It's broken and he's killed and eaten. But if he doesn't laugh, he's adopted. And in some mythologies, mostly it is jaguar. But sometimes it is a monkey. Sometimes it is a monkey instead of jaguar.
Okay.
So the monkey will come and will start tickling this guy.
Okay.
Tickling him. You just stick something with sharp nails, will start tickling him.
Yeah.
So if he laughs, again the monkey will kill him.
Okay.
But if he doesn't laugh, the monkey will adopt him. And the monkey is very funny. The monkey not only tickles him, behaves like a monkey, The Vidūṣaka is always compared to a monkey also, brown monkey in the place. Anyway, and sometimes it is a bat. Bat.
Okay.
What do you call it? Shopsur, a bat. They hang upside down from the trees.
Batman,
exactly, Batman bat.
Batman bat.
So this one, the hero comes and the bat is actually hanging upside down. Always emphasizes bats are always hanging upside down from the tree. And when they see the bat comes and he will start tickling him or doing things to make him laugh. Same thing. If he laughs, killed. So the important thing here is laughter. So Shakespeare, the existential question is to be or not to be. Here is to laugh or not to laugh. That is the question. That is the question, to laugh or not to laugh. So Lévi-Strauss scratches his head, and then he says that, actually in all these societies, I told you, just like in India, laughter is only low characters. Only women and children, they laugh. The warrior, always restrained, he doesn't laugh. It's very difficult to make him laugh. So that is the ideal in these societies. So that is why this guy adopts. So when I saw this, because I am working on transgressive sacrality, and I already saw in the myths which he describes, I already saw many things that Lévi-Strauss himself describes but doesn't take into consideration. So this is important. There is another couple scholars, anthropologists. They are called Makarios, Laura and Raul Makarios. They are very strong critics of Lévi-Strauss. And they go through this whole cycle of myths, and they say that Lévi-Strauss has misunderstood this myth.
Okay.
So according to them, why does this, you talked about identification and Tanmaya Bhava, why does this jaguar adopt this guy? So this is the question. So according to Lévi-Strauss, because he doesn't laugh. So according to this couple, they analyze the same thing, and they say no. The real reason that the jaguar adopts this jaguar is the breaker of rules.
Okay.
The jaguar, that's why it's a wild animal. Wild animals don't follow the rules of society. So this wild jaguar, the Bhairava, they are transgressors. They are violators. And when this hero comes, because he doesn't laugh, the hero, he's identifying himself with the jaguar. That is why he doesn't laugh.
Okay.
He doesn't laugh because he is identifying himself with jaguar. So the jaguar sees this guy is going to be a future jaguar.
Okay.
See? So he sees this guy is already
identified and sees a potential.
It's potential, yes. It's like, adhikar. He has adhikar.
Yeah.
He has a test.
Yeah.
So diksha, it's like a diksha, a scenario. So he adopts him, and so these two people argued. And actually know both of them. I've met this couple. Lévi-Strauss had read my thesis. Just shortly after the thesis was written, he read it. So we went to see him, my wife and I.
Oh, you met him in person?
Yes, he read the thesis. He told me I read your thesis very carefully. So my thing, when I read the two, I realized that both are right. So I said, my thesis was that in reconciling these two, the person who is a transgressor always behaves in a comic way. Pashupata, Vidūṣaka. They break the rules, but they also behave like a clown. And this is what the jaguar was doing, behaving like a clown, right? And this person, this hero, identifies himself with the jaguar because he does not laugh. For him, it is a abhasa of hasya.
Okay.
See, the other people, they see it's funny, they laugh. It's hasya, killed, eaten. But this guy, he sees this like an abhasa of hasya. It's a semblance of humor. So he's able to see through the humor.
Yeah.
So later on, Vidūṣaka also, how you can see through. So all these people who are initiated like Abhinavagupta, they know this is not just funny, there's something very serious going on. So anyway, I actually combined the two. So I said, Lévi-Strauss is right. The laughter is the test, but there is a good reason why the laughter is the test, and that is because same time as I'm reading Lévi-Strauss, I'm dealing with the Vidūṣaka, and also immediately my mind goes click, 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 I see the connection. So I say, it is because this guy is a future transgressor, the future violator, and you see the secret of honey, secret of fire and all are very related with breaking the rules. Even in Abhinavagupta. Because like fire in Abhinavagupta and Kashmir Shaivism means consciousness.
Okay.
Fire plays a very important role where the Agni Milu Purohitam, the very first.
Typically associated with speech or walk.
But also with consciousness.
Consciousness.
See, that is why the Brahmin, the Agnihotri,
at
the end he is burnt in that same fire. It's in Kashmir Shaivism, people think it is tantric, it is anti-Vedic, but actually these ideas are very. I'm digressing.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to say, it is there in both. So, secret of fire, secret of honey, all these are very related to transgression as well. And you see, I talked about the jaguar.
Yeah.
So this jaguar, in that Amazonian context, it is something like Bhairava in India. Fearful character. Bhairava, Brahmanicide, cuts off their head, but all the secrets are kept by him. So Abhinavagupta worships Bhairava. I'm just giving you a parallel. I can't develop it further. So that's like Bhairava. And the monkey, The Vidūṣaka is always associated with the brown monkey. And this actually also goes back to Vedic hymns. We'll come back to that later. Next question. So the monkey is always funny because the monkey looks like a man, but it is not a man. So if the monkey doesn't do anything, it's funny. It's like it's an animal which it just automatically strikes you as funny. Monkey. So, don't do your monkey business. Hey, bandar. Somebody is behaving. So this proves it, monkey and transgression.
Okay.
Then the other is the bat. So why they have chosen this animal, the bat? What is special about the bat?
Okay.
It is always emphasized in this story. The bat was upside down.
Okay.
So the bat was upside down, and when he sees the hero, it comes down and then starts doing all its funny things, tickling him, trying to make him laugh. Then he's like, stoic, like Plato, as he said. So you see, what does it mean, upside down?
Yeah.
So this is physical symbol for breaking the rules.
Okay.
Ulta. Sab ulta karte hain.
Yeah.
So in the moral sphere, you're breaking the rules, you are doing everything ulta, is doing opposite,
Yeah.
So if you see the Vidūṣaka, is very similar. He speaks contrary speech.
Yeah.
Vidūṣaka comes from the word Vidūṣana.
Yeah.
Vidūṣana, to speak contrary speech. And you will see him doing, in the play, sometimes he will walk backwards. He'll do some silly things. So doing things in the opposite way is also a form of transgression. Everybody does something one way, So the laughter, the comic and the laughter in all of this is very connected with transgression. So this is where our work on transgressive sacrality comes about.
Please explain more about transgressive sacrality.
So the sacred, I'm not the first person to work on this. There are two French authors, Roger Gayot, you're talking about play, he has also written a play so the sacred, there are two dimensions to it. One is ascetic, following the rules, etc. But then after this is done, you reach a certain level, you start to break the rules.
Yeah.
So this is where the sacred clown comes in.
Yeah.
Even if you go to North America, the most sacred people there, among the Pueblo people, are the clowns. So these clowns are called Koyemshi. So they are both highest priest, they are also the clown. So they will have this big ceremony where they will be breaking all the rules, which the tribe is following. The tribe is expected to follow this, so they will be breaking the rules. And then they will be cursing the clown and all of that. And they are the highest specialists of the sacred. This is in North America. So you see, you have these two aspects. So you see Abhinavagupta, he is himself a big transgressor. His highest realization he got through breaking all the rules. This is in Tantrāloka, 29th chapter.
Okay.
So he is, he's a Brahmin and all of that, but he breaks the rules. You have to drink alcohol, you have to have forbidden sex, you have to impurities, etc., etc. And these are the kinds of things which the Vidūṣaka doesn't do fully, but he hints at this kind of things. For example, if you see in the Mṛṣākatika, there is a butcher chopping an animal and his mouth is watering. The Vidūṣaka is looking at it. So it's a very strange thing, situation. Anyway, so there are two aspects, and I have developed this in my very early paper, even before my thesis. It's called Transgressive Sacrality in the Hindu Tradition. Then I started working, my wife and I started working on all the other traditions, all from this point of view. So this laughter, which is a bad thing, etc., when you come to transgressive sacrality, it becomes a very big and important thing. So you have, like for example, if you look at the calendar, during the year you are all following the strict rules and all, but then at the end, during Holi, you break all the rules. You see? That is why they say it is a Shudra festival. Because you break all the rules. They can do anything to the Brahmins. And they can't say anything, they can do anything to the landlord. So you find this everywhere, Sometimes it is open, sometimes it is hidden. So this is what Lévi-Strauss is a very secular person.
Okay.
He's against the sacred. But he himself, you see, in all of his analysis, he doesn't go into religion.
Okay.
So it's kind of agnostic, anti-religious thinker. He takes out all the ritual, he separates myth from ritual. But yet, when he's doing this analysis of the cycle of laughter, repressed laughter, in one place he said, this can only be described as sacred laughter. Because laughter, as he said, is looked down upon, only women, children. And then suddenly you see this hero or this very important character suddenly laughing. And he's laughing at a moment when he has discovered something very important. I won't go into the details. Then he says, this must be some kind of sacred laughter. So he himself is obliged to use the word sacred laughter to this context. So, so this is how we have, so it explains this interpretation of hasya and cross-cultural laughter and interpretation of the clown and of the Vidūṣaka. It's applicable. The reason I'm mentioning it, it is applicable to other cultures and societies, to medieval Europe, to Latin America, etc.
But how does this comic behavior of this ritual clown deploy this transgressive sacrality? It is just by breaking the rules, demonstration of those rules. This is what you're trying to
No, it's because the religion, you see, like if you take later in Hinduism, you have Brahmanism or you have Bhakti, and where the rules are followed. And then you have Tantra. So Abhinavagupta has one foot in Tantra. He's the most important person for Tantric, understanding Tantra. Then he has one foot in Purushartha, and you're talking about, if you read his Natya Shastra, Abhinava Bharati, or if you read his Dvanyaloka, you will not suspect that this guy is a Tantrika. Because he's talking about rules and pedagogy and this and that, how to teach people the right way to behave. And then in the Tantrāloka, he says if you want to get enlightened, you have to break all the rules. And he's saying directly this to the Brahmins. He says directly, addressing them. If you have all these pure, impure rules, you will never get. So you see this. So the idea is, he's not a so somebody like, there's one guy called David White, it's an American scholar, says Abhinavagupta is a hypocrite because he's saying this to these people and then he himself is doing this. So he knows this, so why is he saying something else to other people? So the thing is not a hypocrite because the two are not separate. You go up. So this is what is called the interdictory cycle. You go up. You control your senses. You become ascetic. So as you near the top, you want a Pūrṇa. You want a Pūrṇa-Pratyabhijñā. You want a full realization. You have to come down again.
Okay.
Come down. So this is where you start breaking the rules. Now, if you look at the Pashupata, you heard of the Kapalikas, I think, who worship Bhairava. If you look at the Pashupata, it's very interesting. Because the Pashupadas, on one side, they are like symbolically breaking the rules. I told you, they make people laugh, they laugh, asa, they behave in a way to get abused and all. They are constantly disturbing women. They stand from some distance and they make all these gestures and all of that. At the same time, they are supposed to avoid women. You see? So there's a contradiction involved. So like in our work on transgressive sacrality, we say that, both of these are mixed together in the same sadhana. And you won't understand the sadhana unless you understand this as some kind of a dialectic. You see? So basically what started off as some work on India, even before I finished my thesis, it was already going into so many other, so I made comparisons with medieval Europe, etc.
Yes, sir, you mentioned about Vidūṣaka and all, but I'm trying to understand what are the origin of Vidūṣaka. It's only through the Vedic yagi as per the Biski's idea, or is it something more?
No, Kuiper's idea. So, so actually speaking, now if you look, this Kuiper has dealt only with Natya Shastra. He has compared the description of Vidūṣaka in Natya Shastra with the description of the Jumbaka in the Vedic Ashwamedha ritual. And that is there, it's very, But if you look historically, people have tried to derive the Vidūṣaka from many different Vedic and non-Vedic sources. So you asked me where is the Vidūṣaka? So this is why another thing I don't agree is the Vidūṣaka has only one origin.
Okay.
He has multiple origins, but his origins all have something in common. You see, the Natya Shastra is very ancient.
Yeah.
Okay, it's maybe 2000 years old, maybe, you know. So people are following Natya Shastra, but the theatre is evolving. So Natya Shastra cannot keep up. So people are already respecting that. This is why Abhinavagupta wrote Abhinava because it is no longer, there's a big gap between the practice and the Natya Shastra. Mm-hmm. So to maintain the authority of the Natya Shastra, which people are all criticizing, you know, with Bhoja, so many people, so many contradictions and everything. So what I'm trying to say is that the theatre has evolved. So if you look at the Vidūṣaka in the place which we have, he doesn't exactly correspond to the Natya Shastra. There are some things, like crooked stick, you know, the Varuna, the deformity, etc. But if you see, there are other things in the place. If you look at the place, forget about the Natya Shastra, there are certain things, stereotyped, constantly appearing things regarding the Vidūṣaka, which all the playwrights are following. The question is why. So one thing is monkey. Vidūṣaka is always like a monkey. That's why he's funny. That's why also the women are afraid of him. So they say this is Dushta Vanara. Dushta Vanara, brown monkey, Pingala. So where is this monkey image coming from? Is there a monkey, famous monkey in the Rig Veda? In the Rig Veda, there's a very famous hymn to Vṛṣākapi.
Okay, Vṛṣākapi.
Vṛṣākapi, it's to a monkey. So this monkey is very transgressive behavior. What is this monkey doing? It is a dialogue between this monkey and Indra. And it is said that this monkey is Indra's best friend. But this monkey is trying to molest Indrani.
Okay. So
you will ask, why is this hymn in the Veda in the first place? This is a sacred hymn. So the sacred hymn is in the 10th book of the Veda. And you have this strange hymn. You see, so you have some of these very strange hymns in the Rig Veda, like you have the frog hymns. Okay. The Brahmins are compared to frog. So this is one of those things. So people have argued that this Vidūṣaka is compared to a monkey because it's coming from this Vṛṣākapi hymn. Mm-hmm. Which is correct, in my opinion. It's correct. Because the origin, you should forget about history. You say, you told me before that you are all very critical of history. The problem with the historians, you're always looking for an origin. Mm-hmm. So this starts here, it goes straight line and comes here. Mm-hmm. But actually you are looking for ideological origin. And this origin is actually coming from an ideology of transgressive sacrality. And this is manifested in the Rig Veda and other texts in many different ways. Many different ways. Some of them not even funny, you see. So then one more. Mm-hmm. For example, in the, you asked me for the origin, right? So this is one origin. Another origin, like with this Indologist Keith, British Indologist Keith has emphasized, is why is it that in all the plays the Vidūṣaka gets mixed up with the Dasi and he starts abusing the Dasi, Dasya Putri. Mm-hmm. And if you see in Rajashekara's play, one of Rajashekara's plays,
Kavya Mimamsa Rajashekara.
There's that Kavya Mimamsa Rajashekara. Yeah. That Vidūṣaka Chara is very obscene, this thing, with a maid. Very lot of hidden sexual symbolism in that. I've dealt with that as well. Charayana. So where is this coming from? And this is also very often in context of the Vasanto Utsava. He's playing with the maids, abusing them and all of. So where is this coming from? So just like Holi, in ancient times, Vedic times, they had a festival called Mahāvrata. It's a spring festival. It was during the equinox. During the time, the spring equinox. So that's when the sun, is passing. There's equal day and night. So during this time, they had this Mahāvrata festival. And during this Mahāvrata festival, various, like almost theatrical rituals are still ritual but theatrical. So there used to be a kind of a ritual sex between the brahmachari and a courtesan. And during this ritual behavior, he had to abuse the courtesan. He will abuse her with obscene language, and then they will mate undercover. So this was part of the Mahāvrata ritual. So, and then there was one more ritual where there is the sacrifice is being performed by the Brahmin priest. The Brahmin is sitting in the center, the priest. And then on the edge of the sacrificial arena, the sacrificial space, on the edge, there will be a Shudra sitting. So he's part of, so is he part of the ritual or is he outside the ritual? It's a big question. So he will sit outside, so he actually is participating, but on the outside. And he will start abusing. He will start abusing the sacrifice, abusing the ritual. He will start abusing Prajapati. So Prajapati made mosquitoes, how can you praise him? Things like that. So it's a very funny aspect. So this Keith says that this Vidūṣaka, it seems to have its roots in this Mahāvrata ritual. Because this and also the Vidūṣaka comes from the term Vidush, Vidūṣana. Vidūṣana means to abuse. Gali dena.
Yeah.
So like this actually, so Jumbaka, which Kuiper talks about, that's a non-funny origin. So there are actually several origins. And my claim is that in this ancient times itself, there was this kind of comic and transgressive sacrality. Not so, most of it is not to do with it, but it has been retained in the Vedic literature itself. For example, the frog hymn, the frogs. So the Brahmins are compared to frogs, croaking, and that is how they are bringing the rain.
Mandukya Upanishad and Mandukya.
Yeah, of course. So this ability to laugh at oneself and everything, and this is the origins of satire and humor. The point I'm trying to make is it is not outside the sacred. It is a particular pole or dimension of the sacred, which is not so apparent most of the time.
Yeah, because
so the Vidūṣaka, the playwrights, all the playwrights, they realize that this is something very important, and so they have kept the Vidūṣaka. Not because they are lacking in creativity, because Hindu Shekhar is scolding all the playwrights, less Kalidasa, but already Kalidasa, saying that all these people have no creativity, they are repeating each other's jokes, this, that, there's no Shakespeare in India, something is wrong with our culture, etc. So I am saying that, no, it's not there's anything wrong with the culture, but because this culture is very different, and this culture, the ritual aspect is very important, and they have theatre is not just theatre, it is more than just theatre. It is playing some very important role in relation to ritual, the sacred, etc. And these people, these playwrights, they are not just experts in rasa and, very keen sahridayas, but they are also people who know that Vedic tradition very well.
On this, I remember that like in many of the customs in marriage rituals, there is a custom to abuse the in-laws.
Exactly, it has been maintained.
Yeah.
And not only abuse in-laws, there used to be different courtesans involved, prostitutes. For the wife to be fertile, to give birth, you need to have this. So, for example, they have in Benares, Bhairava Vivah. So they have a festival, yearly annual festival, when Bhairava gets married to a well. So during this Vivah, this Bharat, there used to be all these, like prostitutes and all used to come. It was like a real festival. This was a part. Not only you used to have also people who are like half man, half woman, Ardhanarishwar, They used to have transvestite people participating in these rituals, and their participation, even though they are considered like abnormal, was important. Even in Malaysia, in the Hindu festivals and all, they used to have the participation of such.
So do you think that is the role that laughter and the comic play in the spiritual praxis? That's
it's very tied up with transgression.
You
see, I told you like in Lévi-Strauss cycle, the laughter is repressed. So Lévi-Strauss himself sees this is repressed. Laughter is, most of the time it is repressed. But then he comes across some important occasions where the laughter becomes very important, and it is in the context of some important discovery and transmission, etc. So the laughter there is very highly valorized. So that is why he uses the word, Lévi-Strauss doesn't like the word sacred, but he is obliged to use the word sacred because there's no other way to explain it.
I'm just want to understand one thing. When you say this, somebody is witnessing the higher truth. This means like epiphany. You said like somebody's going up, and then they realize that now you have to break rules, and they become much more concerned about something bigger truth than the normal one. So isn't it like epiphany? Like now you have to find distinction between epiphany or maybe genuine smile. Like there's a difference between smile and laughter. I feel happy, something good happened to me, but it is not laughter.
No.
Similarly, when you become in a certain spiritual plane, or you discovered something new or something much more important, and that epiphany moment, or there's a moment of greater knowledge, or like Pratyabhijñā and all. So why do you still find it funny, or rather than just, why not you call just an expression of say happiness? But
but there is laughter. This is why not just laughter, but loud laughter. You see that moment where Lévi-Strauss uses the word sacred laughter. It's an epiphanic moment. It's a moment when the person discovers fire.
Okay.
So I won't go into the detail, but the fire is hidden in the beak of a bird.
Okay.
It's hidden in the beak of a bird, and suddenly the way they get the fire is they make the bird laugh. So the bird laughs, the mouth opens. So you see, there are all kinds of this kind. So the South Indian, we think these are very primitive people, but they have very beautiful imagination and very, subtle imagination they have. These are people who don't even wear clothes. But you see, so Lévi-Strauss is trying to rehabilitate them. So I am trying to show that you are right in doing this. I'm trying to rehabilitate, show that they have very strong powers of thinking, very strong intellectual capacity, but they also have very strong religious, sacred,
Yeah. So with this, we have covered almost much portion of your PhD thesis and your own research, further even post your PhD about laughter and all. We'll continue our session in more informal way about not what is related to your PhD or thesis in general, but about laughter in the next section.
Okay, very good.
You.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.